What up, y'all? It's DJ Envy.
And I am Gia Casey.
And this is another edition of the Casey Crew. And
welcome.
Today's a very special day. It's my baby's birthday.
Yay.
That's right. February 1st. That's when God gave me this angel.
Oh, I'm an angel.
Happy birthday, baby.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too.
I love you more. I'm glad you were on time this week.
Yes. I should knock you out for last week.
All right, but you're on time this week.
I'm on time. Listen, has this not been my thing? Has being on time not been my thing? I've been pretty friggin' dope at it lately. Call me a liar.
You was late last week.
I wasn't late. We're not going to go back into that. But have I not been awesome?
You've been good.
Madison is even shocked at me.
Okay, you've been good. I'm going to wear a little birthday suit for you later on.
A birthday suit is the lack of wearing something.
That's exactly it. I'm going to wear nothing for you later on.
That's what I'm talking about.
And this podcast is brought to you by Blue Apron. Now, Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and I want to cook something fly for my baby. All right? Now, you like when I cook for you, right?
I like when you cook for me.
Now, I meant to ask you, do you like when I cook with clothes on and with clothes off?
I mean, isn't that kind of a no-brainer?
Because all the juices, you might get juices you don't really want in the food.
Why are you so nasty?
All right, now.
This is an advertisement.
Blue Apron. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/KCCrew. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. Go to blueapron.com/KCCrew to sign up for Blue Apron and get those first 3 meals free with free shipping. And maybe you can cook as good as I can with all the seasonings. All the seasonings.
-1.
Well, of course, shout to everybody that follows us, that leaves comments. We appreciate it. And you can always hit us up, thekcrew@gmail.com. That's THEEKCrew@gmail.com. We appreciate the comments on Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube,
SoundCloud.
However you want to holler at us, we appreciate it. And don't forget, Caroline's. We're doing our podcast live at Caroline's February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. It's a perfect date night. The 8 o'clock show sold out, so we're going to do a 10:30 show.
Mm-hmm. We added it.
We want you guys to come. Hang out with us.
Yeah, we'd love to meet you.
Absolutely. So, again, hit up carolines.com, get your tickets, and spend the 13th with us. Yeah, February 13th with us.
Yes.
Now we got some special guests in the building.
Yes.
We have Chrisette Michelle.
Welcome.
Bonjour, bonjour.
A Grammy award-winning Chrisette Michelle. Let me say it right. And we have her fiancé Biggs.
What's going on, yeah?
Now, for those that don't know, me and Biggs' relationship go way back. He's from Long Island.
Queens.
You from Queens. She's from Long Island.
She's from Long Island.
From Queens. He used to throw parties all the time. He used to hire me to DJ his clubs.
So you were a promoter?
Because of her.
Party promoter because of Chrisette.
Because of her.
Okay.
Yep.
And Chrisette would be an after party to like a pre-party. So Chrisette would perform and it would be a lot of people out there to perform, and then I would kind of just close out. Mm-hmm. That's how I even heard the name Chrisette Michelle.
Yeah.
So she would start it.
Yes.
And you would close it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but she would sing and I would DJ.
Mm-hmm,
right.
Mm-hmm.
So now,
what year are you talking about? How long ago was that?
I'm not going to put the year out there.
I was going to be like, what?
That's a little too far back, you know. But Chrisette has been in the news crazy recently.
Yes.
This is for performing at the inauguration, Donald Trump's inauguration. Now, how has that been since you performed? I've seen you doing interviews. I've seen you doing press. How has it been?
Before we ask how has it been, how are you?
I think the how has it been versus the how are you has been the balance of question. The how are you is something that I haven't really given much space to. I'm kind of used to being sort of bait or clickbait. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Well, doing like a like reality series, for instance, is say if you say something people don't agree with, it's like, oh, let's, blog about this. Let's tweet about this. So I'm kind of used to that experience. So I kind of am a little desensitized to it.
I see.
Do you know?
And to bullying. Say what it is.
To bullying. And I keep forgetting to use that word, so everybody keeps reminding me. But I'm so it's happened so much to myself and so many of my peers. I've seen people suicidal. I've seen people on drugs. I've seen people, because of it. So that side of it, and I'm always grateful when someone asks because it shows how much they care, and I appreciate the concern. But that part of it, I kind of turn off. Maybe it'll come out this weekend when I go to the spa. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Maybe that's the next Birkin bag. Do you know what I mean by that? That's what you need therapy for. The other side is, it's interesting what we call, and this is not the right way to phrase it, African America. Do you know? Now, Black Twitter is supposed to be African America.
Right.
All 10,000 of those people are the voice of all of us. And I refuse to allow that to be our definition. I just can't let that be the case. I can't make believe that I think that also. I was talking to Gayle King earlier today, and I'd said what I just said on CNN, and she pulled that part out of my interview and said, I'm so proud that you were smart enough to say that we're not Black Twitter. Do you know what I mean? So does that divide us more? I hope not, because at the end of the day, I hope that Black Twitter, white Twitter, all Twitters can be American together again. So.
But it bothers me. And the thing that bothers me about quote unquote Black Twitter is the best thing about people is everybody has a different opinion on everything.
Yeah.
And if your opinion necessarily doesn't agree with mine, that doesn't make you a coon. It doesn't make you worse than me. It just should bring a conversation.
Totally.
And I see it all the time in life with for instance, you performing at the inauguration. Whether I agree or disagree, that doesn't make me feel or look at you any less than who you are.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're my sister. Biggs is my brother. If you do something that I don't agree with, I'll be like, look, I don't agree. Tell me why.
Yeah.
And then I can say, well, this is the reason why. And then at the end of the day, we hug and then we can go to the club or go to the movies together. It doesn't have to be what this Black Twitter or what they do with bullying online. And I hate it. It disturbs the shit out of me. It really does.
I think the only time that it's okay to judge somebody is when you know that someone does something with bad intention.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I never think it's okay to judge people. And with your situation, and in a couple of moments, I want you, with your own words, to describe what your quote unquote situation was. Explain for people that may not be as savvy or into politics or paid as much attention or particularly know what's going on with you. I want for you to explain from your point of view what happened. But I don't think it's ever okay to judge people if they don't have bad intentions.
Right.
And I think that you did what worked for you with your own set of reasons. So can you explain?
Yeah, and set of resources. So I'll start by saying that I've been a girl who's spoken at events for the NAACP. I've been the girl who opened up for Barack Obama at the Black Congressional Caucus. I'm the Black girl who was at the DNC conventions. And so I've always been that girl. I didn't always tweet about it. Do you know what I mean? I haven't always Instagrammed about it. And I never really was sure that the folks who are on those platforms would be interested in that side of me. So it wasn't something that I spoke too much about, but I've been to nearly every HBCU, speaking with the young people, not even performing, just talking. Right. I went to Harvard University and we did a panel on art for change. So this is who I've been.
So you've always been socially and culturally conscious.
Awfully. Probably to a lot of my family's dismay. I grew up in a Pentecostal church on Marcy and Fulton in Brooklyn. And you never heard politics come from the pulpit. Do you know what I mean? You don't mix those two things together. So it wasn't the type of thing that I could go and sit with my pastor with and say, well, Bishop, how do I go about, evoking a conversation here? So I would like to start by saying that I've always been that girl.
Right.
And so, I'm talking about way back to Girl Scouts. Like I was the girl with the UNICEF box.
So
going
it's something
from door to door.
that's
always
dear to your heart.
Always.
Okay.
People say, why do you have Audrey Hepburn on your tattoo sleeve? Read Audrey Hepburn's biography. See what she did for quote unquote us, because who's us now? But anyway, so that was my life has been a springboard for this moment. Whenever I get calls like those, I'm there fast. You don't even have to ask me twice because I'm read up. Do you know, I'm reading books like A World in Disarray or The Black Elephant in the Room. Those are in my phone now. Do you know what I mean? That's where I speak from all the time. And whenever I'm given an opportunity to speak from there, you don't really have to ask me twice. Do you know what I mean? It's not even a second thought. It's another opportunity to make things different. Right. So when I got the phone call, and I thank you for allowing me to, you know, have this conversation. But when I got the phone call, it was just another one of those moments. Where's the microphone? Do you know what I mean? I definitely didn't automatically think about Twitter. I didn't automatically think about Instagram. I didn't think about CNN, Huffington, all these people that are reaching out now. I didn't think about, I mean, we had Snapchat reach out and be like, can you do a snap about, and we're like, snap.
Right.
Snapchat calls. Like when I didn't know there was a black Snapchat. I wasn't aware. And am I black Snapchat? Do you know? Do I fit in?
This week you do.
This week you would.
Right. So I remember saying Doug calls me into his office. And he's like,
Big's name is Doug. So we may use his name interchangeably. So let's be clear.
So I think we get a lot of laughs for that because I don't know that I ever call him Biggs unless I say thank you, Mr. Biggs. That's usually because Sex in the City. But so he calls me into his office. He's like, will you, they asked if you want to perform. And I don't even know that he was telling me, okay, I'll tell you the whole thing. The first words out of my mouth are, absolutely. When do I have to be there? Are we going to have to cancel the show? Like I was already planning. Like okay,
I was saying jokingly, like
so that's what I was about to say.
You're never going to believe this, you know, kind of laughing it off. Right. It's like, hell yeah.
So let me interject.
He's like, hell no.
Okay, so your immediate response was no way.
Why?
Absolutely not. Because it was happening right now. You know, because, you know, the crazy thing is just 2 months ago, we were with the Obamas in the White House. And to see everything that happened with this president, now president, being elected, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, grab him by the pussy came out before the election.
Right.
All of this stuff that he talked about being divisive happened before the election. And he still got elected.
Right.
So to see the outrage, I'm like, okay, well, that from the black community, I knew it was going to be misplaced. And for you as a black woman to stand up next to this white man, it's going to look as if you're supporting him. Right. Regardless of what your intentions are.
Right.
Regardless of what your agenda is, the conception is, I support him. And we were sitting with a bunch of our friends and I said, you know what, this is capitalism at its best. It's elitism at its best. You know, if you make money, you're going to continue to make money, regardless of who the president is, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, you're going to figure it out. If you feel like you don't have a way out, you're still going to feel like you don't have a way out, regardless of who it is that's president. So for the people that are well off, they think absolutely nothing of it. For those people who may not be as well off, they're always going to look for a person to throw the dart at. And I felt like that was going to be her. So I'm like, no, we can't do this. This is not even something that we're talking about.
So tell us about that conversation between the two of you.
So he says that. And it's one of those moments, because now I've made a commitment for this man to be my husband. So that was like a me and God thing. Like that's like the real deal. You know, like,
right.
And you call your mom and you're like, okay, mom, now this whole submissive thing, like, how do I handle this moment? She was like, just be quiet. Do you know, like whatever, you know, just God is going to have, just hush. So I put on, you know, my cute little outfit in the house and just walk around. You know what I mean? Just walk around and I realized it wasn't that. And so I got on my face and I just asked a few questions and it wasn't that. It was just where the next microphone was going to be or not. So we leave the next day to go to Barbados. We had the whole team, 20 folks deep, going out to hang out with turtles. His phone drops in the water. And so a lot of phone calls he's now missing. And now I'm panicking.
Wait. You're missing a part. So we get on the plane. We don't talk about it anymore.
Okay.
Until we actually get on the plane. So we're on the plane and she's like, So what happened with the inauguration?
I just want to tell everybody out there listening, the plane is the worst place to have a conversation.
Yes.
Because you can't get away.
Yes.
You can't.
I got you cornered between me and that window.
I'm in the plane.
You got some answering
something
to
that's
do.
been on her mind for weeks.
Right yeah.
That's right there in the plane. And you can't.
And how does it start? Let me ask you a question.
Right there. Right there. That plane. Oh my God. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So that's exactly what it was. Let me ask you a question. What's up? What happened with the inauguration? I said, I gave them an offer. And she was like, what was the offer? I said, well, they want you to do two different things. They want you to do the lawn and then they want you to do the ball. She was like, what was the offer?
So he tells me this ridiculous number.
So I tell her this ridiculous pie in the sky number that we haven't charged anybody ever.
Mm-hmm. Now, for everybody out there, that usually happens when you don't really want to do something, but you don't want to say no. So you throw them an outrageous number. And then they come back and say yes.
Right. And that's exactly what happened. So she looked at me with like fury in her eyes. And that was the discussion. I was like, well, and I didn't go into detail with her, but that was my logic. Well, you know, I don't want to be political at all in this. So let me just try to ration the number to a place where they would never say yes.
Right.
And they came back and they said yes.
So why were you furious?
Well, she didn't know right then and there. She was just mad that I would even tell them something that was ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
In terms of the negotiation of the contract. Right. And, you know, so then we're in Barbados, thank God for that, because then we got to kind of settle down. And like she said.
And understand this all happened 7 days before the ball. So this conversation is happening 6 days before the ball.
I see.
Yeah.
So now his phone drops into the ocean.
First of all, BTW, he is an epic swimmer. I mean, he can like do all the like stuff. He likes the turtles. As soon as I attract turtles. So when the turtles start coming to me, I'm usually the first one out of the water, just out. But anyway, so he gets in the water with turtles and his phone is in his back pocket. He comes out and his phone drops on the boat and he's like, crap, my phone. So now, you know, he's receiving less phone calls. So the truth of the matter is, I think that he still would have gotten the email from the people he was negotiating with, but he didn't get all the family members concerned or somebody, whoever, you know, said she's performing or negotiating. I don't know what. But he didn't get all that stuff. So we didn't get the panic.
So people, the public, there were people that were a part of the public that got wind of the idea that you may be performing.
Spooky.
Yeah, they're very fast.
Yeah. Very spooky, right?
Before you gave an actual yes or no.
Yeah. Okay. And remember, this is only 6 days now. So if we were to see anything, we would have went through like 5 or 6 days of, you know, panic.
Contract negotiation, panic back and forth.
Yeah.
And we didn't know any of that because my phone was in the water.
And in Barbados, people aren't, you know, as quick to start a political conversation.
Right.
You know, like it's not as open of a topic.
But it's also not here.
Exactly.
You know, you're not in America,
country.
so it, you know,
exactly.
The temperature would be different as far as the importance of it.
So how did y'all talk about it? Because now you're you know, that's your fiance. You necessarily don't want her to do it. She wants her to do it. How do y'all solve that disagreement?
Well, I don't know if it ever became a disagreement because when it comes to things like that, business or finance, even if she gets scared, she's gotten to the point, I think, because of the litigation and everything that we went through with that, she trusts me.
Okay.
Right.
You know, so she, as mad as she was, there was never any argument.
And that's part of the covenant too. Do you know what I mean? Like you make this decision that this is going to be your leadership in your house. You kind of don't really, as much as you might want to be like, well, I'm not going to do what you say. What's the point of having this man in your house to sort of be the head of the household, you know? So I do honor that. So the phone falls and he doesn't get a lot of calls about anything that's going on. My phones are off because they charge you tons of money for roaming. And so we get back. Now you tell the rest because you're better at the exact detail, but we get back two days.
We got back on the 15th.
Yeah.
So the inauguration is on the 20th. We land on the 15th. I get the contract back on the 16th. We mark it up on the 16th. I sign it on the 17th.
He studied business management.
Yeah, so I didn't send it to a lawyer. I'm marking up the contract.
Crosses out everything.
And she's like, so now not only did you get your money, now you're marking up the contract and telling these people what they can't do. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's still not registering to me.
And we'd love to give you details, but we can't.
That
I would love to tell you what he crossed out.
Before you go any further, I'm a little disconnected. When did the decision get made that you were going to do it?
That's where we're at now.
So then, okay.
He's crossing stuff out before we even say we're doing it.
So now between the two of you, amongst yourselves and your own conversations, you have not decided that you were going to do it.
I decided I was doing it as soon as he asked me.
As soon as it was asked.
He didn't want to do it. That's why he started crossing
So then the decision actually isn't made because it has to be made together.
Right.
But you knew that you wanted to do it.
Biggs is trying to make them make the decision to say, okay, we don't want it. Y'all too much of a hassle.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. So you're marking it up.
So I'm marking it up. I send it back, and I'm like, okay, listen. If this is supposed to happen, this contract is going to come back, and they're going to allow us to make these adjustments. So she looks at me again. She's like, "You're crazy. Like
you're asking for too much.
You're asking for way too much. We never do this." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." The contract comes back and they agree to everything that I asked. At that point, I had to take my hands off it because I said, you know what, this is something that's bigger than me. You know, there's a higher power at work here.
Right.
And even with me trying to interfere in every way possible, she's supposed to be on that stage. And at that point, I went to her, I said, listen, the contract came back with all the changes that we asked for. They sent over a clean agreement, and I said, do you want to do this? And she said yes. And I said, there's no amount of money and there's absolutely nothing that I can do to prepare you for what you're about to go through.
So you knew what was going to happen.
So you knew.
I told her, I said, turn your phone off and stay off of social media. I signed that contract at 11:59 on the 16th. Emailed it in on the morning of the 17th. On the 18th at about 10:30, I don't know how, who, why, the Daily News breaks a story. We've known for months. We didn't want backlash because of what happened to Jennifer Holliday. So they're calling me for a statement. I'm like, what?
So I'm like, can we please not make any statements? And by statements, I mean excuses, reasons, fearful, I didn't want to give anybody
any justification of
any thing to falsify.
I see.
I felt like people are going to be upset no matter what I say right now.
Right.
There's no point in me starting the conversation now. If I'm going to start this conversation, I'm going to start it on the stage. That's where I start conversations. That was very New York of me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's the truth.
And were you aware of everyone that had already turned down the opportunity? Did you know?
No offense, but that was media. Did all those people really get all those offers that we heard about?
I don't know. What do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, how much of that was...
From the folks that I spoke to, and everybody has to also understand that this offer didn't come from Donald Trump. There are booking agencies that actually put these events together the same way that they put together any regular concert. And their obligation is to get talent to procure to actually perform on the stage because it is a concert that people pay for, believe it or not. This is something that's offered to the public. The tickets are $50 and they had about 60,000 people in there. For anybody that doesn't know anything about getting offers, we base what we're going to charge for you to see our artists based on the capacity of the room and what you're going to receive. Right. So when the offer came back and people started to look at the fact that she was now getting paid, you know, you saw the thing come out with Questlove saying that he would pay her not to do it. Right. You know, Spike Lee saying he was going to put. And the funny thing is, I wanted to say something to Spike Lee a lot sooner. But
and I wanted to work with Spike Lee, so it was like,
well, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
It was one of those funny things because I felt like he took advantage of the situation. Right. Spike is somebody that I respect, And I feel like he has a lot of experience when it comes to the media and how to portray things and what to do and what not to do. And I feel like he wholeheartedly took advantage of a situation to promote his movie.
Right.
And that's why my words were very direct and frank to him. It was two words, fuck you.
Right.
You know, and I took a lot of heat for that, and she did too. But I was cool with that, because it's like, here's what you're not going to do. If you don't agree with what she's doing, that's fine. If you want to know why she did it, ask.
Right.
Everything else is an assumption.
But you know what? People don't do that. And let me tell you a story, right? When I first heard that you were performing at the inauguration, Gia and I were driving. And this is why I love her so much. So I'm like, damn. I was like, Chrisette's really going to perform for him? I'm like, I know Biggs is about his bread, but damn, Biggs. I'm like, man. You know, this is after she performed. I'm like, damn. And then Gia was like, and I was like, that's fucked up. And Gia was like, well, no, you don't know if that's fucked up. I said, she was like, that lady got on that stage, wore a white person's dress, and put Basquiat on her dress. She's an artist. You don't know why she did what she did. You don't know what her intentions were. And right then and there, I was like, damn, I'm doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, shit. And she and now my wife, I'm supposed to have my back.
Right.
But she checked me immediately. I was like, you know what? You're absolutely positively right. You know, I don't think that you had ill will, and I think what you did and the reason of doing it was great. You know, you wore your Basquiat on your dress, and the reason that you said, and like you said, you're not a politician. That's not your job, and for whatever reason that you decided, that's your reason, and because of that, that doesn't make you a coon. That doesn't make you some of the things and horrible things that I've heard them say about you. But you're absolutely right, and that's what Black Twitter does a lot. They do bully. You know,
and it's a lot of bandwagon thinking.
So.
Right.
And oftentimes people don't do their own thinking for themselves, regardless of what I feel about whether you should have performed or you shouldn't have performed, or what set of reasons, or, you know, you put everything on a scale and you see which one weighs heavier. There's a lot of things that goes into making a decision.
Yeah.
But to judge somebody without fully understanding or even taking the time to consider.
Right.
I mean,
that's what
they
we
can't ask Chrisette. They don't know Chrisette. They don't have her telephone number, but you can definitely do research and you can take time to make considerations. If a person does that thoroughly and with the right set of scruples, you know, in other words, not just jumping on something, not just wanting to join in the hate, not just wanting to be another one to point a finger, then okay, you come up with your opinion, that's fine, and you own that, but it should be righteously done.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be to persecute somebody or to just be another one that's part of the masses, because I've looked at some of the comments and things that people have said in response to how they feel about the fact that you performed, and some things I said, okay, maybe I can understand why they came to that conclusion, whether I agree or disagree. And then there were just other comments that I'm like, that person's not thinking. Just because of where you came from and what brought you to make that comment. You're not really you're not thinking for yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think that's the scariest part of all of this.
It is.
I watch the different gatherings of great groups of people right now, and I see different things on each picket sign. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then the microphone goes around, and most often, or more often than not, when somebody asks, what are you going to do to change, or what are you trying to fix, there's only a shout about us being loud, or about us gathering, or about we're in this together. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are defining what this is. I am good at defining what this is. That's something that I've worked really hard to be. I've asked a lot of questions. I've spoken to a lot of people. I've visited a lot of communities, a lot of centers. I've been around a lot of programs. And I had to make sure that I didn't die, do you know what I'm saying, without utilizing that. This time, I couldn't die. I couldn't cave in without utilizing that. Because this is the most afraid of the system I've ever been. This is the most fearful I've ever seen young women. I've been interviewing a lot over the last few days, and there have been a few younger Black girls who have done interviews with me, amazing intellects, gone to amazing schools. And there's this look of fear in so many young women's eyes that I haven't seen.
Rooted in what?
Rooted in not understanding where their future lies. And I can tell that's what it is, because these are hard workers. Do you know what I mean? These are girls who are pushing past the mark, who are not afraid to work hard, who are not afraid to stand. But when they get to those picket lines and everybody's shouting, they're still not heard because everybody's not saying the same thing. You got a pro-choice and a pro-life protest at the same time in the same city. And every sign says something else.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm going to go stand on this stage and I'm going to know what I think. I'm going to know what I have to say. I'm going to hold this microphone and wait for you to ask.
What was it that made you so certain that you wanted to do that? Because we haven't talked about that.
She said she knew immediately.
But based on
what I've done so far, these are the environments that I've come to almost be obsessed with.
Okay.
These are the problems that I've become so ignited with. Not because I have the same problems. My healthcare doesn't have to be that healthcare because my stuff is holistic. That doesn't get covered by health insurance, okay? And I'm not stressed out about welfare, but my cousin is. I'm not stressed out about Obamacare, but my brother is.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not fighting injustice because I feel like I'm not going to survive in America. I'm surviving in a Porsche and a Range Rover. This is not about me surviving. This is about us surviving. So when you ask me, you know, how do I feel? If I had to place a feeling on it, I would call it disappointment. And I would call it disappointment because the word us in 2017 is so limited to whatever you're looking at in the mirror. And that's not fair to anybody but you.
I want you to be a little bit more clear.
Sure.
I'm thinking, I'm starting to understand what you're saying, but I'm thinking that maybe the listeners might not really grasp what you're saying as to why you wanted to be on that stage and sing.
In the simplest terms.
In simplest terms,
yes. You're watching Trump on TV and it's okay for him to grab her by the pussy, right?
Right.
And I'm
because we voted for him, right?
Well,
No,
I didn't.
Well, not we,
Don't
but
say we.
not we, Rashawn,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
as a country, he became the president.
Not by the popular vote.
Right.
But he became
this is all
the
painful.
president. So
Right.
he's
Very painful.
So despite
Not even the
everything
popular
else,
vote.
Right.
he is the
the
president.
That's the bottom line.
So go ahead.
I grabbed her by the pussy. You know, we all it's gross. We all watched. And if you were in a room with your homegirl, you looked at your girlfriend and you looked back at the TV and you thought, that's the guy from The Apprentice.
Absolutely.
Going around grabbing vaginas. And now he's the president of the effing United States.
Right.
That ain't me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't me. We're saying that's not my president. I'm saying this is not my America. Like, I don't know that girl like he's talking about.
Right.
And when you watch her in the interviews and you see, you know, her discontent with the system and what she feels to be unjust, there's still a strange disconnection. You're kind of like, yeah, he wouldn't have been grabbing my balls. Like, that shit wouldn't have happened if I was in the room. So part of it was, hey, this is what we look like. Do you know? This is how we stand. This is how we sing. This is how we talk. This is who we are. This is who I am. This is who you're talking to. A part of my ego, and that's the part that I would call my ego.
Okay.
Like, I would go all the way and say my ego wanted this guy and his crew to know who the F they were dealing with.
Right.
Do you know, a part of me just wanted to step up and be like, you don't get to say that to me. And you hear like Michelle Obama's last speech when she talked about getting educated and kind of having a voice based on what you learn. Do you know? You hear for many years the rhetoric that if you're going to be black and powerful, you have to be better than. Right? And some of us hate to hear that, right? Because it's not fair.
Because
right?
it's not fair. It's not equal.
It's not equal.
It's not equal.
And then some of us run with that and say, all right, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna kick ass. I'm gonna go hard in the paint and get there. And I think part of me was doing that.
So you were exemplifying your strength and you were asserting yourself in a sense, and you wanted to be like that image of strength for girls that you were talking about.
The girls that I am talking about. And people agree and people disagree. Do you know, Gayle King felt like I was that person, but there's a girl on, social media that doesn't think I'm that person. And so what I'm saying is the part of me that was hurt was I can't represent everybody. Right.
It's very important because, I heard things I heard that you wanted to be a bridge. Did I say that correctly? Yeah. I don't think that people understand what you mean by that because I've been in groups of people where they've tried to call bullshit. So for me, as we sit here and talk, I want to make sure that you let the people know why you did it, because a lot of time judgment is rooted in misunderstanding.
Sure.
And whether people agree with it or not, if they're able to understand why you did it.
Yeah.
For the people that disagree with you.
Yeah.
If they're able to understand why you did it, then they may be more accepting. Yeah. And they may not rush to judgment as quickly.
But there is from New York again.
Yeah. No, but there is there is a certain level of acceptance that I think most people want, especially in your profession. Because you have fans, you have people that look up to you, you have little girls that look up to you. Hold on a second, babes. You have people that look up to you, and you don't want a little girl that may love you and love your music and that you're a role model to and that loves what you stand for. And she may be 12 or 13 and she's in her living room and she hears her parents bashing you. And the message that you tried to portray or the reason why you wanted to do it gets lost in translation because now she's just adopting her parents' opinions. So know that it is important for people to know whether you're desensitized, whether you can move on from it, whether in 3 years, because, people, we have a short memory. Absolutely. A lot of things don't stick. In a year or two, you put out that hit, people forget. Look at R. Kelly. Look at, all these people that have done things that weren't accepted by the masses that were able to move on and continue to be successful.
Well, I'm not worried about continuing to be successful.
I think the key to that actually working though is what we talked about before, and that's for everybody to take a step back, breathe, and then ask the question why. A lot of people that said they were mad even after they heard her speak, publicly, because we're at the inauguration. It's not like you can put a defense out or explain what's going on. Right. They thought that she was hiding. And she didn't want to tell the fans, and because that's what they read in the media. Right. Yeah. They didn't understand that, this is something that happened so quick. And, so even if you are quick to judge, then you can't play jury and executioner at the same time. At some point in time, when there's some type of fact out there that doesn't coincide with what you originally thought, you have to be big enough to say, wait, let me rethink this.
Absolutely. But do you honestly think that most people are?
But that's the problem. That's part of the problem because we automatically assume that we've got it once we get enough information to run with. Absolutely. And that is the core of the problem.
That's the bad thing about social media.
And people aren't so willing to admit their wrongs.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
What's worse in this world is that, let's say after this podcast airs, let's say you've changed some opinions, whether that's important to you or not. But let's say that you have. There are so many people that might be in a group of people, like I might have been, like I just told you about, that won't say it. No. They might feel it.
But they won't
be brave enough to say it. Right. because they don't want to be judged, and they don't want people to turn around and look at them or put that hatred upon them.
I don't want to be led by those fears.
I agree.
And that's what I was gonna say.
I agree with.
Yeah.
See, my whole thing is, my life was so much freer when I said fuck everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you try to live for everybody.
Yeah, I can't.
And then once you really just stick up the middle finger and says the only person that I really care about is my God and my family, nothing else matters.
Well, this is the reason why she always asks me, like, how are you sleeping at night when this stuff goes on? Because that's the way that you get. You realize the people that matter will always matter.
Absolutely.
And the people that don't won't ever.
But so the optimist in me thinks that some of those people are going to start to matter,
and then
even if they're upset right now.
But then you get situations like this, and then you're torn because you're trying to fix something that it was your place to be on that stage. It was your place to get every person who's mad right now mad. That's where they're supposed to be.
I just wish that there was another place.
What they do with that anger is up to them. If you're so mad about this system and what's going on, then do what she's doing. Challenge the status quo. Challenge the system. Do the things that you need to feel better about what's going on. That's not her obligation. She was just supposed to spark the flame. Where the flame goes and how far it travels, that's between you and your God.
So do you feel as though mission was accomplished?
So that's what I was going to say. First of all, we got to give some credit to the people who are excited about the conversation. CNN doesn't just invite you on CNN to just, talk about your new single. Do you know what I'm saying? The Huffington Post just doesn't invite you on to say you got an album dropping Friday.
Yeah, this happened a week ago.
Like this, it has been a nonstop press campaign about a conversation being sparked. So hell yeah, the mission is being accomplished, and it's not going to end this time. And the reason why it's not going to end is because I'm this time not going to be afraid to say to the folks who I've been talking to all of this time, you guys are taking too long. You're taking too long. I've got an idea. You know what I mean? This time I'm not afraid to say I've got an idea and I'm going to run with it. And so I had been working on this thing called No Political Genius back during the Atlanta riots when I got chewed out for asking people what their picket signs say back then. This is not a new fight that I've been under, and we've toured 67 cities since then, so it hasn't stopped the income. This is not a fight that's going to end tomorrow either. So this time I've decided to put my money where my mouth is, right? And pick up these cameras. I've been picking up cameras for a long time, but they've been on YouTube. Right. Do you know what I mean? And while that's been impactful, I'm ready to take it to the network side. So picking up the cameras and telling the stories of the people who we feel like don't matter. When Trump, with the Trump fingers, when Trump got up on the stage after the inauguration and he starts naming all the people in America, and he named the single mother, and he named the person who was poor, and he named all these people, right? And then finally he gets to the end of naming people, and he says, and the ones who feel left out. And I'm like, oh shit, that's me, because you didn't mention me. I want to go and find all those people that he mentioned. If they live in Boise, Idaho, if they live in South Dakota, if they live in Chicago, I want to find them. I want to show their story, no matter what the F they look like. This is not about being black. It's about being human. And show them that there's a girl in Boise, Idaho who's got the same story as a girl in Far Rockaway. And if we come together, maybe we could sing one song. I know that's so optimistic, but I don't think there's a better time to be optimistic than now. And then I want to take those stories to the Congress people who want to sit down and talk, and to the journalists that want to sit down and talk, and to the politicians and the senators and the mayors that I get offers from all the time that want to talk. Okay, now I want you to look at these people and tell me what you can do for them. And then I want to put that on the platform so that both girls can see the story, and both girls can see the answer, and both girls can make a decision as to what they can do to fix it. That's journalistic. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. That's using your platform for good.
Yeah, and that's the goal now. I've had that idea since Atlanta, but I've been afraid of backlash since Atlanta.
You can't get more backlash.
Can't get more backlash than this. Right. So why the hell not?
Let me ask you a question. So you said that part of the intent was to spark a conversation, right? So that conversation is what? Like in one sentence, what's that conversation? Or if that conversation begs a question, what is that question?
Sure. You look just like her when you look at your situation. What are we going to do to fix it? That's the conversation. You look just like her. Boise, Idaho, you look just like Far Rockaway. What are we, the both of us together, going to do, action to fix it? And we'll see what that requires.
So then you're on that stage and you sing, right? Where's the connection?
The connection for me as an artist was in the choice of song. Right?
Okay.
The connection for me as an artist was in the Basquiat skirt that had a black man being hung on a noose and had a black man being beaten by a police baton and had all the stuff that we may not have been watching. Right? That was the connection for me. Again, there's an ego, right? That doesn't know much, right? Because to me, like, the ego is kind of like a lie that you kind of keep telling yourself, I'm the shit. You know what I mean? Is that doesn't really know much and tries to create the art and tries to create the song and tries to put the harmony and the melody right where it needs to be. And then there's that divinity that takes over your intention. Do you know? All you can be is human. Like, I'm not any more than that. But at the end of the day, I do believe that there is a divine work that is done when you decide to create from a good intention.
Now let's go back a little bit now.
Sure.
How did y'all two meet? How did Biggs meet Chrisette Michelle?
Let's talk about your relationship.
How did that happen?
Valentine's Day 14 years ago?
No. It was, well, yeah, that actually was how we met. We were going to Five Towns College in Long Island.
Right.
And I saw her getting off the bus one day, and she had on some
Yellow
tan
Timbs.
khakis, some yellow Timbs, some fitted pants, and
Straight New Yorker.
and some red hair that was in a wrap, and she was just walking like she knew she was a shit.
Did you know you were the shit?
I'm from New York.
So that was a yes.
Well, you know that thing. You don't mean any harm. It's just your big headphones and, you know, the music playing. It has nothing to do with anybody.
She didn't look like she was from Long Island because we were in Dix Hills, so
Right.
we was way out. So I hadn't seen anything on campus.
It's called
like
Black Girl
her.
Magic.
Yeah,
Spike.
all of that. And I walked past her and I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna have to keep my eye out for her. And I didn't see her again for about 2 months. The next time I saw her, I didn't even know it was the same person, because now she had on like baggy, ripped up jeans, black nail polish, short hair, like
The same
She's an
girl that I
artist.
am today.
She's an
it was
artist.
crazy. It was crazy. But she happened to be in the lunchroom singing for Valentine's Day. So she got behind the piano and she sang 2 songs. And the way she sang these songs, the amount of passion that she put into them, I could tell that she was really going through something, or she was really sad about, you know, a past relationship or whatever the case may be. She had talked about not having a Valentine's. So I was on my way to work and I just couldn't shake it. So I literally made a U-turn, found a florist, bought her some flowers, went back into the lunchroom, gave her the flowers, and was like, yo, I don't know what you going through, but you know, you're special.
Biggs is romantic.
Okay. No. In New York, they call that G.
Yeah,
Like that. That was G.
Thought about that. All right.
in front of the whole school, mind you. So, and I didn't know I had already had a reputation of being like one of the dudes on campus that was, you know, kind of flying, doing this thing. And
He used to park his Beamer. You know, back then, like, the word Beamer just sparked a particular type of conversation.
Yeah.
In the teacher's parking lot, you know, closer to you had the VIP section on lock.
Right.
He always takes up 2 parking spots.
Yeah.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah.
He's one of those too. He's one of those
we
too.
have a lot of the same cars too.
Yeah.
You and I for years have been having almost all the same cars.
Okay, so now go ahead. So now you gave her the flowers.
And that was the end of it. We exchanged. Did we exchange numbers that day?
No.
Okay, so I just gave her the flowers and I left.
Oh, that's G.
That's real G.
Yeah, that's real G.
I don't even want your number. I just want to give you
Want you to be happy.
I just want you to be happy.
Yeah, smile. All right. But go ahead.
I got that
But
smile.
then that sparked us seeing each other more and more often in the lunchroom. And I think one day I went up to her in the lunchroom while she was on the line or something like that and was like, yo, you know, can we exchange numbers? And we started out talking as friends.
That's it.
Yeah. He
was a grown up. You understand? He was making like a crap load of money, and he wore slacks.
He wore slacks.
Like on certain days of the week,
Right.
He wore slacks.
Yeah.
You know,
I was putting myself through school, so between school and work, I was just
yeah, a big lofty
wavelength.
position, and he had already purchased his first house. He was like a grown up. So my friends would be like, "No, this is the one." I'm like, "He's a grown up." And like I had like a school bag that I had made out of duct tape and like put a whole bunch of rocker stickers on it. Like I was the party of five. What's the movie? Breakfast. The Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club. The real movie.
Yeah. Why was that hard for me to figure out? The breakfast. I was that girl. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't understand the connection.
Right.
I just thought that he was a really cool person to talk to, but the conversations on the phone were his life, and you can. Whatever you want to do, but his life is so inspiring. And I've always been good with sitting down when I hear inspiration.
What's so inspiring?
Well, I mean, to her, it's just my background. Like I was putting myself through college. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I was adopted when I was 12. My mom was addicted to drugs. And put us in foster care when I was about 7 years old. So I've lived in every borough in New York City, and my younger years were fighting. I think that's where I get it from, because if I wasn't fighting for food, I was fighting for my clothes. If I wasn't fighting for my clothes, I was fighting for a place in a bed to sleep in. So where a lot of people would have taken, and I'm not saying that I didn't do some stupid things growing up, but it built my character. At a much younger age. I was determined to not be what my history was. So I was the type of person that I started my first business when I was 15 years old. After working for some Italians in the company closing, like I was always, not even knowing that I was an overachiever, I was just always determined.
That's crazy because a lot of people would take a lot of the things that you're going through and fall off and make themselves excuses.
Right.
And then there's a very few that will take that and work harder so they don't ever have to go through it, and their children never have to go through it.
Exactly.
So I definitely admire that.
I felt like I had no choice. So, the whole time I'm growing up, I'm just doing these things, and one thing leads to another, and the next thing you know, you look back and you realize that you have this thing called character. And thank God I was adopted by somebody who had, real Christian values. My mother was a single mother. She had gone through, everything that she could go through as a parent. And she adopted myself and my brother, which is unique because, most of the time when somebody decides to take on children, you have to split them apart. And that happened for a while. So he went one place, I went one place, and then we finally wound up being back together. So I felt like that was my restart. You know what I mean? I didn't allow that history to define me. So, buying my first house at 21, that's, I was overachiever. I made the first $1 million that I ever made was in real estate before I even did anything in music.
Wow. I want to know when it became romantic now. Like you were just friends, you just talking, you're inspired. When was it romantic? When did you say, you know what? I'm falling for this guy?
So her mother started telling us that we were
I just want to say, I never thought of romance. It never crossed my mind I'm not the type who picked out wedding dresses and put my wedding together as a girl. I was a tomboy. I was loud. I was hip hop. I was rock and roll. Boys, girls, same difference. So the flowers, and one day he leaves me like a teddy bear for Easter on the dean's desk in school with jewelry on it, like a necklace and bracelet, and I thought that stuff was nice, but I never went out to buy jewelry. Like, and like, it became romantic for me. One night, we were driving over the Brooklyn Bridge, and his top was down, driving super fast. I like to go fast. And he puts his hand on my leg. And it was like, oh my God, he's touching me.
Gee.
That was the like split second moment where I was just like, oh, he's a boy and I'm a girl. Like, his thumb is rubbing. And
how old are you at this point?
I might have been 22.
Okay.
Yeah. And I came from a very sheltered home, obviously, right?
It sounds that way.
Yeah. So the kids with his story all lived at my house. So my mom had a therapeutic home. We didn't have cable and regular music and things like that. It was a lot of instruments around the house. But she took in children, her and my father. And so he was somebody who I was used to seeing all the time as far as an pusher past the situation, past the circumstance. He was a familiar sound to me. I had seen kids who were adopted and in foster care. That was my whole household. That was my family.
So you don't mean that he, as in Doug, was in your household? No, you mean his likeness was in your household?
Yeah, and they were black, they were white, they were from Vietnam, they were Chinese, they were Puerto Rican, they were all different colors. But they had that same tenacity. So when that tenacity turned into a hand on a thigh, it was kind of like when I was just like, and that moment, I can see that moment as clear as day. So that was kind of when I started to feel feelings. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I got it the day I saw her getting off the bus.
You knew she was the one.
I was like, oh yeah, that's it. But you know, like I said, I think once we started having more of an intimate conversation, I was gonna say her mom started telling us that we had to get off the phone because we were talking so much, and then we wound up, you know, the Nextels was popping back in the day, so I'd hit her with the chirp and tell her, you know, I'm about to call you, and we would literally.
He had to buy me a Nextel. So
yeah, I bought her a phone just so we could talk. And we just got so familiar and close with each other. You know, it wasn't anything that we couldn't ask. And the crazy thing was, I wasn't dating her. I was actually dating somebody else at the time. But we had more of a friendship and a relationship.
That's why friends are dangerous.
Yeah.
We did a podcast about that. That's why you let them friends in.
Yeah.
All right.
So
go ahead.
she, you know, she answered all the questions just by being there, and I think she was the first person that I opened up to kind of explain where I was relationship wise, because I had felt that rejection so early on from my mother, a woman, I had a very hard time being in committed relationships. Like, I would be with somebody for 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, but then the second you did something that pissed me off, and I'm a Scorpio, like, so when you're dismissed, you're dismissed, like, it's over. So she was the first person that because we became friends first, you know, the relationship was like, now and I kind of knew I would always marry my best friend. You know, I always knew that, and especially once you start to achieve and excel and you've experienced some things in life, I think the only reason why we didn't get together sooner is because I felt like, because she had that sheltered life,
very sheltered,
I didn't want to have taken advantage of her in the sense that us getting together too soon, she would have missed anything.
What's the age difference between the two of you?
3 years.
3 years.
Oh, so it's not much.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
How
not
long
much.
did it take for y'all to kiss, like to be intimate then, since he was so sheltered?
Like a year and a half.
A year and a half to kiss?
A really long time.
Really?
I don't, you know.
So you guys were really friends.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, after a while, it wasn't because I think she was sheltered. After a while, she was with it. I would say after 5 or 6 months, she was with the get down. But then we started talking about music, and that relationship started developing. So now it got more complex because now you have these two people who are good friends, but now we're talking about doing business together. And my biggest fear with that was actually what happened, you know, when it came to the litigation and things like that.
Wait a second. So we start talking about doing business, and I'm like, I don't want no record deal. I'm independent. I have my own mind.
Right.
You're not box me into, you know, unless it's hip hop. So only way I wanted to deal, and I love this story because I'm talking to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this is kind of full circle. That's kind of crazy.
You understand? So like, as a New Yorker, you kind of go through this thing of I'm the shit versus do I join the shit? You know, like at what point do you put your ego aside and say, I want to be a part of that? And it's very hard as a New Yorker because you're surrounded by greatness. And so if you're not careful, you will think that you're kind of bigger than what you are. Do you know? Even if it's just your voice, you get to perform at all these really cool spots. Do you know? And you get to put together the show, and you get to promote, and you get to sell the tickets. Do you know? You're a promoter. You're a business girl. You've got your girls in your car. It might be a busted car, but you're in the car and you're driving through the projects and you're selling these tickets and you are New York. So I'm like, I don't want to be on a record label. Like, we, figure this out ourselves. He's like, give me 1 year and I'm gonna get you this record deal. I was like, oh God, okay, fine. I'm not changing anything. Like, I'm gonna be myself. So 2 weeks.
Yeah, we decided. I decided to take a vacation from school. I said I was going to take 6 months off, and I convinced her to ask her mom to take 6 months off. And within that period of time, we got the record deal at Def Jam. And,
and I came to school with the shirt.
Envy, like you say, he played a huge part in that, because when we first started, a lot of people didn't want to listen to the new artists. So once we ran around and we did all the showcases we could do in New York City, it's kind of hard to break a female artist here. So I said, okay, you know what? Well, fuck it. I'm going to take some of this money that I have and I'm going to start doing shows and parties. So I would book the hottest DJ, and the hottest act. We went from Jadakiss to the Lox to when Joe Buttons was popular, you know what I mean? And we used everything that we had around us in our hood to shed light on what we were pushing. And the thing that made it, kind of hot so fast was we attacked everything. Like, we went to radio. We was doing Mars 2112. We was doing Speed. So you had no choice but to look and be like, damn. Like, they really moving, and she's a force, and it was a little girl from Long Island.
And that's what I was the whole time. That was what I was the whole time. The whole time, when he was going and making all these deals and doing this stuff, I was sitting on the right side of the Bentley with the fur on, listening to Ella Fitzgerald. Do you know what I mean? I never was moved by it. Why is it called Mars 2112? Do you know what I mean? I never was impressed by it, because I was still the girl with that ill book bag made out of duct tape. It was all just like, stay in the car until I come back. Do you know what I mean? And I'll fast forward because I know, it's a specific amount of time. One day, it was like, stay in the car until I come back. And I got out of the car and I went in the office by myself, and they were like, he's fucking you over. And it was the first time that anybody had ever given him any opposition in front of me. I had never seen, they didn't want you to perform at this place, or, we have to hire cool people because you're not cool enough. Do you know, like, I didn't know that was happening, because in my head, I'm the girl with the duct tape book bag. Like, I am lit sauce with these ripped jeans. I'm just, my dad fed it, as a little girl. We had all these instruments in the house, and my dad would be like, I could play the worst thing of all time. My dad would be like, that's amazing. Right. It's so great. And my mom comes in from Queensbridge. Yeah, Chrissy, do it again. You know what I mean? But he didn't say either of those things. He kind of just let me be. And I never knew that I wasn't good enough. It never occurred to me that I wasn't good enough. And so he kind of took the brunt of all that. But anyway, I get out of the car by myself and I go, and they say that he's effing you over. And I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, we need to hire another lawyer because they're telling me that, Doug is not doing the right thing. And this lawyer, shouldn't say his name, right?
Oh, okay.
I won't say his name. It's not about that. But this lawyer, famous lawyer, I believed him, because he showed me this paperwork and he said, this is what's being done to you.
What was being done to you, according to him?
According to him, long story short, because I suck with, what's it called? Like,
legal jargon.
Legal jargon.
Right.
Layman's terms.
Yeah. Was that he was taking a larger percentage than what he deserved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simple.
Keep it that simple. Yeah. And, when you're looking at a contract, it says one thing, right? Kind of like the Bible, and then you turn the page and it's like, wait a minute, I don't get it. And it's like that. It's like you don't get it. And so if a lawyer tells you that it's bad, you're like, oh gosh, it's bad.
Because he cracked the code for you. Like, he told
quote
you.
Unquote, yeah. And my mother was there. Now, my mother is the typical black mom. Just like there's all different typical nationality moms, she can be called that. She's typical. She is the lady from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's mom, loud, boisterous, and no, she didn't do it like that. That's not my daughter. Loud. And that's the position she took for the entire case. It was loud. I stayed on the road literally all the time. I remember my first year out, I was out for 180 shows. And
so wait. I'm sorry. I don't know where we're at.
So
we get this deal.
They get the deal.
Okay.
The lawyer tells him that Biggs is stealing from her.
Right.
She fires Biggs.
You didn't see. You guys know the story. You have to tell the story for people that don't know. Okay.
So I want to know how you fired Big. Like, how was that conversation?
You should let me tell that conversation.
He's better.
Biggs, I remember this like yesterday.
He's better.
Shit was a movie.
To him, I didn't think any of this was a movie.
It was a movie. So
right.
We go from signing a record deal, a publishing deal, and a CSAC deal. So we did Def Jam, we did CSAC, and we did BMI at the time. EMI. I'm sorry. So you got these two kids, and when you come into the industry, you're what's known as new money. So the deals included, publishing, writers, everything. They now call 360 deals when you're doing, but back then everything was broken up. It was for 1.3 million. Back then that was a lot of money.
It's a lot of money now.
Still a lot of money.
It's definitely. So she tells me when we're in Chicago, she's like, yeah, so when we get back to New York, I just want you to, to come and sit with me with our lawyer. We have a new lawyer and they just want to get us acquainted with things. So I'm like, all right, cool, no problem. But the whole time on the plane, there's a plane again.
Right.
She's fidgeting. I'm like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, I just hope everything is okay after this meeting.
What's the time frame? You get her the deal and you're having this conversation.
I get her the deal and it's probably 2 or 3 months because the album was done. So we literally turned in the album.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3, maybe a month, 2 or 3 months after.
And you did all your managerial duties. You were choosing tracks, helping her, doing all that.
And this is Bay. This is not just your artist.
Right.
Key. These are keys.
Romantically linked as well.
Right.
Because everything you're buying me is for the artist, right?
It's both. It's Bay and artist.
So you're her man.
Together.
I don't think so.
It's together.
I don't think so.
It's together. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So we do the deals, and I want to say it was like January, February. So we did our deal in the fourth quarter, which was in September. It was the end of September, and this happened in like January, February. The new year started. Everybody's going into office. And she goes upstairs and they tell her that stuff. She comes, back. We assume business as usual. She finds a lawyer.
And then you're on the plane.
We're on the plane and, she's nervous. So we get off the plane. She goes home. I go home. And then we come to the lawyer's office. So I'm thinking it's just, we're going through everything to make sure it's straight. The dude turns to us and says, you seduced Miss Michelle.
It was a seduction.
You
really scary.
You embezzled. This dude was calling me like a monster to my face.
Wow.
And this was the first time I had ever heard any of this stuff. So it was me, Chrisette, her lawyer, my lawyer, and her mom. So
you had separate lawyers?
Yeah, we had separate lawyers. The whole time when we first started the deals, we had separate lawyers as well. So he says all of these crazy, things, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy because she's sitting across the table from me. I'm like, yo, I was just in the bed with you last night.
And she's looking at you like,
No,
she didn't even look at me.
Yeah, I couldn't.
She was. I don't think she knew that he was going to take it there that quick.
Yeah,
but you knew that something was looming because you told him, I hope everything is okay after this meeting.
And she hadn't told me about, hindsight is 2020. She hadn't told me about the meeting that they had in the office. So all of these things that I find out later on.
The dots got connected.
Yeah, as to why the meeting took place, because I was like the protector. I was the coverer. So with this new money, in order for you to attack it, you've got to get in between the management and the new money. So I turned her project in for like $225,000 on $1 million project. Why did you do that? Because anything that you make after that comes back to you. So she would have made another $700,000-$800,000.
Right.
we turn the project in, they put a wedge between us, and the first thing they do is they do all these accusations. So we no longer talk because I blow up in the lawyer's room. I'm cursing everybody out, and
you feel like she's being unloyal.
Yeah, I'm like, this is nuts. So I'm talking to her. I'm like, how could you do that? No, I don't
know
like
if you felt that way.
No, I did, because I'm like, how could you?
No, but I don't know. But in other words, of course you felt betrayed, but I don't know if you felt like I knew how to articulate what they were saying to be able to say to you, can we fix this?
Well, that was the thing. So when we did the deal, just to backtrack, when you develop an artist and you do all the things that we were talking about with Envy in terms of, wardrobe, hair, nails, makeup, travel, that money comes from somewhere. It's called artist development.
Of course. Right.
So when you do a deal, the first thing that's supposed to happen is you're supposed to get that money back. I didn't see that happening right then and there, because if I would have done that, she wouldn't have got any money.
We learned about some of that in the New Edition story.
Right.
So, so instead of taking the money that she owed me back, I just said, okay, you know what? We're just going to split this right now, and we'll figure that out later. We're going to continue to make money.
My ego didn't know he was doing me any favors. I just figured he was getting money together.
Because you were just the girl in the fur that was sitting.
I was just the girl in the fur. He
in the Bentley, and he was doing all of that. So you didn't understand everything that went into the process.
She just wants to be the artist.
That's it, to be the artist. You do what you do best. I do what I do best.
So he didn't know that either. So, the first thing they do is they start asking for paperwork, in terms of expense reports and everything. So I'm a businessman. I keep receipts for everything. So what they did was they said, okay, well, give us the receipts and show us that you spent this money. Cool. I sent over every receipt for like a 3 or 4 year period of everything that was spent. Was like, here, if you want to make this a legal thing, then give me my money back. And whatever you want to do after that, we'll do. If you feel like you want to make more money, this, that, and the third, I'm fine. But I'm not going to let you slander me and then take advantage of the fact that
they slandered the shit out of you. Big.
Did they? You remember that, right?
What did you hear, Sean?
I mean, they said Big stole money from Chrisette. He stole millions. Yeah. Chrisette had no idea.
He embezzled. He this. I was the dark sheep.
Big did another party. I told D, I said, you got to check his money. It might be fake. Gotta be careful with Big.
That's terrible. And what's crazy is Twitter was about to be invented. We were on the cusp of Twitter coming out, and still the internet was nuts with stories it made up. Even back then.
But that was the part that hurt the most. But this was the best part. I got titled "The Jilted Lover"
by my best friend who's a PR.
Hold on now, the Jilted
Lover.
So then they withdrew the embezzlement charge because it was a charge. And
wait, so when you say a charge, it went. This was
in court, like downtown.
Oh, so this was in court. This wasn't just, the contract is funny.
This was, you have to
took some of my money. I'm firing you. Like, this was a lot more serious.
Well, when you say embezzlement, that's what they, and they were trying to move it from state court to federal court because they were talking like $250,000 or something like that.
It is amazing that you guys are here now, engaged after all.
Wait, we're going to get there. Hold on.
It's just amazing.
Well, I don't like this story either. We can totally skip ahead. Love your Van Cleef, girl.
So they're going back and forth, and now not only do I have to defend this case. Now I have to defend my good name. You know what I mean? So it goes back to that same thing that I was telling you, that fight or flight that I had as a kid, growing up. And I took a step back and put everything on the table and said, you know what? Y'all want to fight? Let's fight. So the next thing you know, I sued Def Jam. I sued Chrisette. I sued her mother. I sued her father.
Wait, hold on. Yes. You sued her mother because her mother was managing her.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, how did her father get caught in the...
Well, what happened was...
Let him explain.
What happened was once we got to the deposition, we started finding out all of these, documents that come in as to who's doing what. You kind of, the shell game is exposed. Right. So this is how we found out Def Jam told her that she needed to get a lawyer and actually gave her the lawyer to start the madness. And the reason why her mom had to get brought into it because her mom was actually torturous interfering with our contract. So, and the same was for her dad. So it's one of those situations where it's like, shit rolls downhill.
Right.
You can't do this without doing that.
Right.
So it was one of those things I had to sit back and say, okay, well, am I going to defend my good name, or am I going to let these people just run all over me? And it was one of those things that had to take that. Now, mind you, the craziest part of all of this is when Chrisette and I stopped talking, me and her mother started talking every single day.
I could never understand why my mom could ever say a good word about him, or my dad would still pray for him. Like, it was...
Me and the mom became best friends, and I still say it to this day. Had I had more of a relationship with her mother, this shit would have never happened. It would have never happened, because they would have understood, like, nah, dude is the best thing for her. Because,
and the business.
Right,
because the communication would have been there. You were just doing your job, it seems, and letting her do her. And then when it hit the fan, she didn't understand. And then you have, in your defense, you have these lawyers that are telling you these things and showing you,
this is 50 cents
and
lawyer,
showing you, and showing you these documents, and you can't read it. It looks like Chinese to
just
you.
5 contracts.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Like,
like a legal contract. Right. Like, you need a PhD, a law degree.
That's why I said earlier, like, it was crazy for him to even, write up the contract for the performance, because he understands all that stuff.
After the litigation, I felt like I should have went back to school to be a lawyer.
Well, that's what it sounds like. You sound incredibly bright and capable. So yeah, because
it was a couple of times I had to check myself. Like, damn, did I do that? Right. You start looking at these things, and it's like, okay, for it to go this far, there's got to be some merit to it. So that was the first thing I said to my attorney. Like, I wear a Jewish high, and I just feel like they move differently. Like, they don't make those type of confrontations. There's no litigation going on. They pick up the phone and they figure things out. So and my lawyer was black, talking to a Jewish lawyer, not going to go over as well as you might think. So I asked him, like, I came to you asking what we should do in this situation to make sure legally we were sound and good to go. She had an attorney. I had an attorney. I paid for both. Like, how are we here?
Right.
What did I miss? What memo? And, it was one of those things. Like I said, it was a shell game. And, to unbeknownst to her, the project went from being $200,000 and something to almost $1 million on the first album.
I knew.
I know you knew. Staying at the Lowe's and flying first class and, doing everything that new artists do. I'm getting the invoices.
Like real new money, right?
Yeah. I got to sign. And now I still have to sign off on everything. Right. So they're still asking me to approve this
that's still your
foolishness. Yeah, because it's still my artist. And I'm just sitting here like, but I couldn't place the blame totally on her just because I knew what her personality was. So when you ask how do we still get back here today, it was because I saw this for what it was when it first started. You know what I mean? There was no shock or surprise to me as to why things happened. It was how did we stay there for so long, and what was the misstep as to what we could have done to prevent it from happening?
Now, so you sued everybody.
Sued everybody.
Well, she sued me first. So that was the other thing.
Yes.
Everybody thinks that Biggs just came out the gate with guns a-blazing. We submitted the album. It took 1.5 years for the album to come out. On the anniversary of us putting the album out, the June 7th, album drops, I get served with papers. And that's where all the stuff started from.
How successful was the album?
It's gold now. Well, you can tell the story to how it got there.
Sure, you want me to speak now? So the album comes out, and remember, I'm still this kid from Long Island
with the duct tape backpack.
One of 8 black kids in my school, Afro, and we put this album out, and they say 27,000 people bought the album. I'm through the roof.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. 27,000 people bought my record.
Right.
Def Jam wasn't happy.
But remember, back then, 27,000 now, it would be dope. Back then,
it was not.
It was a different.
Cool.
I'm surprised
industry.
They still promoted it with 27,000.
Well, still kept going.
Right.
I was surprised. Well, now that I look back, but I'm so excited and thinking that this is some big, great number. And I get to the office, or my mom gets to the office, and they tell her that's not a good number. I'm like, I don't know what they talking about. Where's my Kurzweil? Back then I used to have a Kurzweil piano, and I bring it with me everywhere I went. So I had this new Mercedes and put the Kurzweil in
convertible Mercedes too, wasn't it? It was convertible.
My mom didn't let me get the convertible.
Okay.
Yeah. So because the Kurzweil was too big, but put it in the trunk, and me and my mom create our own bunch of shows. I'm talking about that Mercedes went all over the country. I'm talking about all the way to the Bay Area with this.
Drove to the Bay?
We drove. We took flights when we could. We wasn't really well versed in putting travel together. We just figured we on tour. Just keep driving. We drove and sang everywhere they would let us sing over and over again. $200 here, $500 there, until the album went gold. But it took, as you can see, I'm quite tenacious, I guess, and I don't really do no well. Like, I don't do no's well. And so if I didn't make the mark, I'm going to run until this mark is made. I heard that gold was a good idea, so let's just get there. The album, the first song, the single gets Grammy nominated. I'm like, oh, sweat. The second song wins a Grammy. I'm like, oh, sweat. Like, it was... So, but it took some time. I didn't mind taking time because, it was my first album. I didn't know that wasn't successful.
So during that time when you guys weren't talking and weren't speaking, were you dating somebody else and were you dating somebody else?
Oh, I was always dating somebody else. Always dating somebody. You gotta understand.
You weren't that sheltered little girl.
Yeah, now she's out of her
from Long Island
now
anymore.
She out the shell.
Now,
she just got out the shell.
Now you sitting on the couch, bank head bouncing, talking about I was always.
You gotta know that I love a party. I love a beautiful, well put together champagne shower. It's a wonderful unifying time. In my opinion, I really feel that way. You didn't have to ask me twice to put a shoe on and a dress on and go out. And so I wasn't drinking. I had never really, alcohol wasn't one of my things, but the people that I was around introduced me to this poise and this new feminine identity that I had never really identified with. And it was fun for me. It felt really nice to me. Karen Kwok, who you may know from Def Jam back in the day, I remember going to my first big party. It was L.A. Reid's in his hotel suite. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't drink. I don't drink alcohol. She said, well, this is what you do. You just sit on the edge of the couch, sit up straight, and you just hold a glass of sparkling water. And you just hold and you sit up straight. And that's what I did for a couple of years. I just held glasses and sat up straight. And it bring me to all different kinds of places. As long as I was, holding that glass and standing up straight. After a while, my back started to hurt. Like, it was like, this is really not, I don't know if I'm telling the truth, right now. I don't know if, and I'm holding my back up straight and keeping my chin up because I'm fighting with the man that I love. I'm holding my back and because my agent is giving me every date that he can possibly give me on the calendar to pay for this case. And it's one album. By the time we got to the second album, I was exhausted. I was really emotionally tired, and
it was like a divorce.
That's what my mom called it.
Yeah, it was like a divorce.
Yeah. So I get into the studio with Neo, and I'm like, yo, I can't even. I don't even know where to begin. So he starts writing from my heart, and I'm like, I didn't say that. I'm not going to write about being sad. And he was like, you have to. So I think kind of at the time, you just do whatever Neo says. You don't ask him questions. He was, that guy who not only put great stories together, but he was really beautiful, loving, compassionate individual. You felt at home and really safe with him.
What year was this?
This is 2009 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So he and I penned the album Epiphany, and that comes out, and it's sweat, it's #1 on the Billboard
80,000,
charts.
Right?
How many records did you sell, Chris? 81,000. Oh, fail! The lowest selling, highest charting album of all time. So I get into Jay-Z's Bentley, and my cousin buys me a pair of sixes, and I go and walk in my sixes to a tea spot, and I just sit at cafe. Gosh, what's the name of the cafe? Well, it's on it's whatever it is. I went and sat there, and I just started to think, I started to feel like I kind of don't fit in anywhere. Do you know? When I do good, it's not good enough. Do you know? And when I do bad, you don't say goodbye. Do you know? It's like there's all these chords and strings to things that I'm not sure if I identify with or make the mark to be. And it was like I was starting to get exhausted. So my agent sends me around the world. 1.5 times, all these different countries with the Epiphany album. And I meet lots of people. I meet people in Japan with afros and people in Africa with perms. It was just like, I saw everything I needed to see. And I come back and my hair is exhausted from all the people pulling and tugging on it. And so I shaved my head. And
I'm looking like, what the hell is going on?
Where are you looking from?
I'm looking from the same perspective that you would from the outside.
So you're on the outside looking like.
I think that's when it got real to me.
Yeah, you had a Caesar.
No, she had a bald head, bro.
Bald? I don't remember bald.
Caesar.
No, it was Caesar. It was little. It was little
something.
It was like mine.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got off the tour bus in LA and ran to the barbershop. I was like, I'm sick of this. I'm an independent mind. I can think for this whole time.
Wow.
I've been the same fight. I don't, you can't define, you can't tell me what to say. I have to say it my way. And just that kept happening over and over again. And we get to the third album, Let Freedom Reign, and I decide I don't want to tour just in the States. Now I want to tour and speak to the military. So we go to Afghanistan and we speak to the troops, and now I'm seeing more, and I come back and I'm enraged about what I had to see people going through there. And it was always something in me, maybe that's political. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's called, but
well, that's where I thought you were going when you did Let Freedom Reign. I'm like, I saw the Stars and the Stripes. I'm like, okay, she's gonna be a politician.
And what did you think when you seen her bald?
Yeah,
she's gonna be a politician.
Did you was like,
I said, this ain't gonna work. Like,
so you're all about making statements, and
I always have been.
Yes, and going against the grain and doing you and asserting yourself and forget the masses. I'm gonna do what my heart tells me to do.
Yeah, bald is a
like
bold
you stand on your own too, and you're like, whatever comes my way comes my way.
Well, you only live once, and but as much as I love Def Jam, and I always will, Def Jam, man, that would be a whole nother podcast, but that place taught me so much. It showed me how to love in the midst of a corporate storm. You might work together for quote unquote the man, but there's a camaraderie that was at that building in those days that I learned so much from. I learned how to build a company working at Def Jam, but we get through Let Freedom Reign, and I go through this deep exhaustion of everything, and we get into our last deposition, and we're in the middle of it, and I'm like, I kind of don't want to do this anymore. So we get up from the deposition and go into a separate room, and we basically rewrite the contract that we were trying to negotiate the whole time with our own two hands.
So I pay all them lawyers for nothing.
To go in the room by yourself and rewrite it.
And I was asking that from day one, but again, they wouldn't let us talk, So when she kind of shut down the lines of communication, was like, yeah, talk to my mom and talk to my lawyer. It wasn't a possibility until she was ready to be able to say, you know what, I could sit across the table from this dude, and I think I know him a lot better than y'all do.
When did you forgive her though? Like when was that conversation? This is good. This forgiveness got to be a good forgiveness. You done sued me. You done mess with other guys, and now you're bald. Like,
I think it was when I saw that hurt. When I'm looking at her and I'm like, you know what? That's the same person that I went to college with, and if you ask your mom, I would tell her this all the time. It got to the point that I was calling audibles from the sidelines. I'm telling mom what to do and what not to do, because through it all and in spite of it all, I wanted to see her. Paris knows we still book dates for her. Like, I would call her all the time, want her to win, and she couldn't understand it. She's like,
Ma, get off the phone.
Like, she's like, why are you sometimes I would hear in the background, why are you talking to him? And I'm like, at that point I realized that she was more hurt than anything, because people, so I never placed what happened in the legal battle on our relationship. I decompartmentalized those two things until we got the chance to speak, and that was the best thing for me, because when we talked, it was almost like we went right back to being friends. Because all of this stuff, while we had been through it, that was the only way that I knew to weather it, because I would have drove myself crazy looking at what people decided to put me through, and these were people that knew absolutely nothing about me.
You knew that her intention wasn't bad.
Yeah. Right. And I knew if we could have sat down, we would have done exactly what we did 7 years later. We would have settled it, but that wouldn't have been in the best interest of our
interferences.
Yeah, litigators cost good money, you know, and it wouldn't have been in their best interest for us to sit down and talk and settle things that quick.
That's the truth.
Now, what was the first conversation like when you decided, you know what, let's get back together?
Let me just say that, because I always, you know, I think the whole 10 years was a kick Chrisette's ego in the ass. Because a lot of, and if you listen to the story, you may not place blame on me or him. You may choose what you most identify with. But from the time that we met, there was this thing of, don't tell me what to do. Nobody tells me what to do. You might not know that by looking at me. Do you know what I mean? Which is probably why I have a sleeve now. It's like, I said, don't tell me what to. But over all these years, it's been pit stops where I had to say, I said, don't tell me what to do. So we keep going. We get finally to, I'm at my rock bottom when we get into that room together. I am exhausted with fighting. Every time I look at my litigator, she says, that'll be $40,000. You know what I'm saying? Every time I look at her, and this is keeping up still with my collection at home of shoes. You understand? Which, you know, was my favorite thing at the time. I get to the point where we get in the room together. That's done. Now I moved to Los Angeles. I have all this experience in LA. I've got all these clothes, and you might understand what it's like to express yourself through your clothing when it doesn't seem like what you're saying is resonating. You might say, well, maybe if I put this on, they'll see that I mean this. Maybe if I'm natural, they'll see that I'm for the people.
Right.
Maybe if I wear a weave, the ratchets will think that I agree or I'm with them.
Right.
You know, like you put all these different things on. Now, as you heard him say, when we first met, the first time he saw me, my hair was long. The second time he met me, I had on baggy jeans. Like, I've always expressed myself through whatever is visual. That's just been my passion since I was young. So skip ahead to Los Angeles. I'm in LA and somebody gets shot and killed. I've dealt with a lot of murder around my life, just cousins and family members. Black on black crime is nuts in my family. But this person gets shot and killed across from where I live, and I wake up in a cold sweat the next day and I'm like, Mom, I gotta get the hell out of here. We won't go into detail of what I went through in LA because, you know, time, but my assistant and I sell all of my stuff on Poshmark. I'm like, I have to let go of everything. Because a part of
all the shoes that you love,
every single shoe. We went to all the different vintage spots in LA and sold as much as we could, and then I just ended up giving away some of my furniture. I just had to get rid of everything. Kind of like when I shaved my head.
It's like you had to cleanse.
I had to cleanse. I was so tired of trying to explain and express and being safe at the same time, because the part of me that was always trying to be safe is the part that would try to protect my family values. I don't know what my mom will think if I go up against this person. If I write a song about this, I don't know if I should put it out, because I wrote a song called Let Freedom Reign. I was like, but I can't put that out as a single. I'll just put it as a track that you kind of listen to if you want to. Always kind of like
sidestepping
myself. So I fly home and I say, Mom, please don't book me for anything else. Like, just don't book another date. And so I go in her basement, and I kind of, now in my new Target pajamas, my onesies, I go and hang out with the Bible and prayer, and I just kind of get alone. And the first vision I had was of Douglas. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what you want to talk about? So I go to my mom and say, Mom, I don't know what's going on, but I'm having feelings for Dougie. And she goes, of course you are. It's the best thing that ever happened to you. I'm like, really? You totally could have told me that before I had all these nervous.
7 years ago.
You've been sitting on that for years.
Hot dog, Mom.
And the crazy thing about that was right around the time that she had gotten into that shooting, you have Chinks' hat there, and you know what we went through with that.
Like, Chinks passed away.
Chinks passed away around about the same time. So when I say
he used to manage Chinks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was at rock bottom, you know, because we had worked so hard to get him to the point that he was just about to take off, and to see his life snuffed out. I'm just like, again, a huge setback and disappointment with like the industry as a whole, because it's like, okay, well, when does it stop?
Right.
And I was just like, man, like it didn't get any worse. That's why everybody used to call me Biggs, because I was a lot bigger. I probably lost about 60, 70 pounds just because I just couldn't connect the dots. That was the first time in my life that I had felt defeated. You know what I mean? Like and then
the same deal. It was the first time in my life where I felt defeated, and I had to like let go of everything. So I fly home, and I'm in the gym, and I write him an email from like I think it was the treadmill or the elliptical. It just came to me like what to say, and it started off with thanking him, and it moved into what I learned from him, and I sent it, and he writes me back right away, and he goes, "I never stopped loving you." Was how he started it, and I was just like, Mom!
That's that G.
Mom, he said he still loves me. Is it okay if I still love him? She was like, yes, you can still love him. I was like, are you sure? She's like, yes. So I call him now, and we have a conversation, my favorite word, and we start talking again. And he's ending up that he's flying to New York soon, and I'm going to an event in New York, and so we meet at my hotel after the event, and we start talking. He comes with a bottle of Stag's Leap, and we finish the whole thing. We don't fall asleep. We talk until 7 a.m. We take a nap, and then we leave the hotel, and he's like, you want to come to my place? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like texting my mom, going to his place, say a prayer, And
she's like, stop it writing. Get like, condoms.
She's like, and you're coming home tonight, right, Chrisette? And I'm like, yes. And so I don't go home. I don't go home. And then I go to my mom's house the next day, and I'm like, Mom, I'm going back. And she's like, praying and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, Mom, I got tired of my mom's voice, and I usually don't say that out loud because I have a lot of respect for her. She's a God-fearing woman who raised me well, but I got tired of her voice. At this age, I felt like it was time for me to have my own, and I stayed at his house for about 6 days, and then we went to the studio. We had some conversations about when it's great music, so we go to the studio. And we're recording for maybe a day. And we're like, we should totally get married. Like, why would we have gone through all this to not get married? That would be stupid. Like, We've learned enough. We picked up from where we left off. Maybe the next day he invites me, or the manager of the studio at Jungle City, invites me to the rooftop of the studio. It's beautiful, New York City skyline. Pink rose petals all on the ground, and he gets down on one knee and he starts talking. I didn't hear anything he says because I'm like screaming. And finally, I end up with this ring on my finger after all this noise. Apparently we got engaged. So that's like the long story, but it was 7 days after we started talking.
7 days.
And y'all just let everything go from the past.
Yeah.
But the big thing at this point to me is, like they say, 0 to 100. You knew that you wanted to marry her. Just tell me what that was about. Tell me what went through your head. You go from the struggle, and then you see her off, touring and doing everything, and you're watching it from afar, and then, you guys get back together, and now you're in this space, and it's only been 6 days, and you're like, I need to make this girl my wife. What was that?
Well, it was funny because even through the litigation, given the opportunity, I think I would have done the same thing. You get to the point that you've gone through enough in life, you've experienced enough in life when you know who and what your soulmate is supposed to be. So
clarity.
Yeah. Clarity. And again, it's one of those things where everything else got shut out. When I say we were working like slaves with chinks, like that was my reason for being. Right. And when you get to that low place of just not being able to understand anything, and you look at your self-worth and value, and you try to figure out, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? What do I want this next chapter to be? And I felt like I couldn't imagine it not being with her after we started, talking again. Clarity. So it was that crystal clear message of like, okay, this is your defining moment as to what you're going to do,
And I noticed with you guys, I noticed beforehand you guys were in a relationship and it was just a relationship. Now when I see you guys, it's, I don't want to say cute because I'm a guy, but it's cute to see. When they walk in the room, he has her hand and he's holding her. And I'm like, man, I'm happy for you guys. After hearing the story, we're definitely happy for you guys. And what I was going to say before is, so you guys just forgive. Y'all don't bring nothing up from the past. You forgive and just.
Oh, we have a lot of conversation. I said I took paper clips, and I was his girlfriend, and those gifts were for me, and I'm not taking that back.
The difference is when you say gifts. Like when I gave him the receipts, the flowers wasn't on there. The teddy bear wasn't on there.
My Jordans was,
but the Jordans were. Yeah. Hold on.
Yes, very.
The bra and the panties that you needed to go and prop everything up and look good on stage. Yes, because I wrote it off as a business expense. The Spanx was definitely a business
and understand,
expense.
I had never heard of any of these things like Spanx and all stuff.
But he knew.
He
straight to Jamaica Avenue. Come on, let's go.
Like he was so good with like putting outfits together and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't even think like about doing that stuff
like,
myself.
I had to pay for that.
Yeah. So no, we still joke.
We joke
and,
about it, yeah.
and seriously have some conversations sometimes. But it's one of those things where it's like, yo, this is totally my destiny. I'm not going through that again without you. Because when we first got back together, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of cool with like not singing anymore. It's just so overrated. Like no one's listening.
No more?
I felt like now, a lot of what I'm saying is going over people's heads. Like, maybe I should just write a book or start a poetry site or open up an open mic night somewhere where
we're not going to allow you to do that.
Well, he wasn't going to either.
Oh, okay.
I think that your thought process is a little otherworldly. Like from meeting you today and sitting in this room, I'm sitting here concentrating on every word that you say because I want to make sure that I understand. I'm not the type of person that can smile and nod. Like if you say something, I need to walk away understanding what you said. So as you're talking, my impression is, wow, she's very artistic and she thinks differently than mainstream and your thought process, and that's you. So as you're talking, I don't even think that you identify it, but me as a listener, I have to pull from other parts of my mental to really kind of center and be like, okay, that's what she means. That's why earlier on I had to be like, I know I asked you this question 3 times, but let's connect artists,
this. And that's what makes good managers. You have to know how to channel the creativity.
Right.
You have to be able to say, not now, do this, don't do that. And then you also have to know when to take your hands off, because one of the things people said was, how could a manager let her do the inauguration? Right. And now you guys hear the backstory behind that. There is a fine line between creativity and management. You know what I mean? Like you still have to allow a person to be a person and stand for what they believe in. But then, as a manager, we got to say, baby, not this song, not right now.
Yeah,
like let's go in this direction. And we have that. That's not something that she's been able to share with many people and not feel like, she's been oppressed and not being able to have a voice, because there's an art to that.
Right. And she trusts you.
Yeah. I totally trust him. The only reason I'm able to do any of this stuff is because he's by my side. Every day I'm like, please don't go. Because the years alone with, or the years without him, and there's a song on my latest album called Soulmate that just kind of talks about it. But the years without him, I didn't really feel supported, and so there were times where I wanted to say one thing, but I was kind of like, nobody's gonna catch me if I fall. Now I feel like I've got somebody to catch me if I fall. So he's the one going through all the Twitter comments and saying, okay, babe, you need to respond to this one.
Because he got you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for everybody out there listening that might not know Chrisette Michelle's voice or music, and that might be a hip hop head, let's not forget that she did Aston Martin music. That's her voice on it. Jay-Z Lost One. Nas, Hip Hop is Dead.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff on there.
Yeah, so she does get busy. Like she's a hip hop head. Right. Like don't get it twisted. She is a hip hop head.
And I love hip hop, and I love the culture of hip hop. Just one quick story. I was in Tokyo, and Lost One had just came out, and I was going to buy the swooshy pants from the 90s because they have all those vintage stores.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm picking it up, and Lost One comes on the radio in this little like a hut of a store on a sidewalk in Harajuku. It was like, you know what I'm saying? So hip hop is this universal language that, you know what I'm saying? I had the privilege of speaking.
Let me ask you a question now. So you plan on getting married. Quick question. When do you plan on getting married?
November.
Oh, November. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to be a unit. Not that you're not a unit now, but under God, you're going to be a unit.
Yeah.
How are you going to do your finances?
Well, that's already came into play now. Like,
He is amazing with money. Like, he's really good with it. That's not one of my fortes. I'm really good with spending money. So I'm like amazing at it, but I'm also like a super hard worker. So I will work however many days I gotta work and get whatever I want because you're not gonna tell me what to do. Right. So I mean, this is the girl who will work her ass off for that portion, will work her ass off for that range, will work her ass off for those 3 bedrooms, and she's just one person. And he's teaching me now, like, you don't have to have everything. Like, you don't have to. Do you know what I mean? And I'm starting to realize that I can wear things twice, unbeknownst. This is brand new. Nobody would ever know this, right? I could have like one shade of red. Ruby was fine. You don't have to have every single one. Shoes can just be one color at a time, Chris. Like, it's...
We need bigs, babe. We need to borrow.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
You know why? Because we are the same. Like, we're both like you. Let me rephrase that. The old you. Right? Like, we want every shade of red.
Yeah.
Like, I'll come home and like, babe, I want this car. She'd be like, you just bought a car. You don't need a car. And then I'll be like, all right, I walk off like a child that can't get what he wants. She'll come back in the room. But babe, you work hard. So let's go get that car. Like, that's how we are. The same thing.
That's so funny.
Like, you know, Gia has a bag here, right? She called me yesterday, was like, babe, so I was at Hermes and I was like, what are you doing at Hermes? I thought you were out to eat with your friends. She was like, yeah, but it was around the corner for Hermes and they had this bag that I wanted, but I left my credit card at home. You want to come right now? I'm like,
yeah.
Sure, babe. And I jet there, but
well,
that's
okay. Well, I'll be real. Like, he does really big gifts as surprises. Right. You know, so it's kind of like, well, right now I want a Cocker Spaniel. And that's not happening. So he picks when these big gifts are going to happen. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a little controlling. You get to decide when I get big presents.
Well,
if he's
I mean, no,
she that's not controlling.
And see, that's
generous.
So like,
but you see that ego again? Like,
yeah, your ego might be a little bit of a problem.
The bag. You got the bag. Well, I didn't get it the day that I was supposed to, you know, like, I'm just micromanaging,
trying to control me by giving it to me on my birthday.
I had to, right, yeah, exactly. And then, in the industry, I really did have to micromanage. I had to create companies. I had to hire and fire people. I had a lot to do. And so us coming together, I'm being stripped of so much responsibility. And so little by little, this rigid girl who had to figure it out without a degree in it is realizing that she's going to be okay, you know? So he's been amazing with that.
Well, you're helping her be okay.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys for stopping through, man.
Thanks
you
for so much.
Super
This
fun.
is cool. I hope people learn something about relationships, about Chrisette Michelle,
About forgiveness.
about forgiveness,
About clarity. To me, what spoke volumes during this is your moment of clarity. Like when you said, I went through everything that I needed to go through. If we went through all of that and I didn't end up here, it was for nothing. Right. You know, like that's clarity. Yeah, and when you said that, you know, you just had to cleanse to get to that next space that you needed to be in. Those are to me, those are the important lessons that people can really pull from and take away from and kind of apply to their lives.
Absolutely.
Totally.
All right. Now, if you want to email us, you can. It's thekcrew@gmail.com. It's THEE KCCrew@gmail.com. And don't forget, we will be at Caroline's February 13th for a live broadcast of our show. Now, Chrisette, we just need you to do one more thing. We got to close this out with a prayer. So we're going to let you do the prayer.
Oh, of course. Heavenly Father God, I thank you for your goodness and your mercy, for your love, your kindness and your care. I thank you for bringing us all together here today just to have a conversation and to shed some light and some love on what it's like to honor you through the marital union. I ask that you would just allow people to just be moved and touched and freed. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Toodles.